Martin Luther King Jr., Michael Jordan, Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, and Kenneth Frazier. Most of these names you probably recognize, some of them you haven't heard of, but they all have something in common. They all worked hard, didn't accept becoming a statistic, and they rose to great fame, success, and power. I became interested in this topic because too often people assume white people have an easier life because of their skin color. There are other factors that account for more privilege than just being white. The next time someone tells you that you've had a really easy life just because you're white, you can recall parts of this speech to change the narrative and bring some objectivity to the conversation. White privilege is an overused fallacy intended to make white people feel ashamed of their success or less deserving of it. It is a fallacy because the concept falls apart when other privileges are considered, and anyone who is willing to work hard to overcome their circumstances is given every opportunity to succeed in the USA today. There are privileges that do provide a clear life advantage, but being white is not one of them. A two-parent home is the biggest privilege available to children today. According to an article titled "The Fallacy of White Privilege" by Dennis Prager, the biggest advantage is a two-parent home. If you are raised by a father and a mother, you will reach adulthood with more privilege than anyone else in America, irregardless of race, ethnicity, or sex. That's why the poverty rate among two-parent black families is still only 7%. According to Gillespie Shields law firm, in two-parent families, children typically have access to more economic and community resources. Parents are able to pool their time, effort, and money when there's two of them. Children also tend to be the focus of the home. According to this chart from kidscount.org, the purple says 24% of white families are single parents, 65% of African American families are single parent, and only 15% of Asian families are single parent homes. Asian privilege is also more beneficial than white privilege. In a 2014 editorial, conservative commentator Bill O'Reilly pointed out that Asian household incomes were 20% higher than white household incomes per an article by Jeff Guo in 2016. He goes on to further rationalize that the reason Asian Americans are experiencing more success than African Americans is that their families are intact and education is paramount. Asian families experience the lowest divorce rate per Anna Swanson in an article from the Washington Post. Only 16% of Asian males and 18% of Asian females are ever divorced or were married more than once. This chart shows that the green line is the 18% of Asian females who have ever been divorced or remarried, and the orange is the 16% of Asian males. Compared to the 38% male and 36% female among whites, it is easy to see that children in Asian families will benefit more from two-parent homes than white or black children. This chart shows, again, the orange is male, the green is female, but this is the 36 and the 38% of individuals of whites who have been divorced or married more than once. Back in 1966, when African Americans were fighting for equal rights and rioting and protesting for assistance from the government, Asian Americans were known as laborers of the lowest wages. Also, according to the article by Guo, they were ditch diggers, launderers, and minors. Despite these tough times, many Asians managed to climb the socioeconomic ladder. Today, 54% of Asian Americans have a bachelor's degree or more, which is the highest percentage of any ethnicity. Being born white doesn't guarantee anything in life. A child raised in a two-parent household and Asian children experience more advantages than white children do. Everybody can overcome obstacles and become a success story, but it requires a lot of work. Everyone, regardless of race, is fully capable of succeeding and becoming a contributing member of society through hard work. More than 1 in 5 black men aged 18 to 64 have made it into the upper third of the income distribution, according to the Institute for Family Studies. This may not sound like a lot, but according to the same webpage, the share of black men who are in the upper income bracket rose from 13% in 1960 to 23% in 2016. During that same time, poverty among black men also dropped. In 1960, 41% of black men were living in poverty, and now it is only 18%. So how are these men doing it? They're doing this through education, work, and marriage. Black men who have a college degree, a full-time job, or a spouse are more likely to end up in the upper income bracket. About half of black men with a bachelor's degree have made it to the top income by age 50. Compare that with only 14% of high school graduates and only 22% of black men with some college education. In conclusion, white privilege is not a ticket to a successful life. Being raised in a two-parent home and hard work are the only advantages awarded to children. Some people are born with an advantage in life, and others make the most of a bad situation. But white privilege is not a factor in the path someone takes in life. A child, regardless of race, who is raised in a two-parent home will have opportunities and advantages that children of single parents won't. However, being a single parent doesn't mean your child can't succeed. It simply means they'll have to try a little bit harder. To quote the eloquent and admirable Martin Luther King Jr., "We all have come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now." No matter where you start or what advantages you feel others may have, there is nothing stopping you from ending at the same place.